Good morning. Good morning. Hopefully, I am on the air. I skipped yesterday because I had a lot of things to cook early. But I'm glad to be back. The show is Who Am I? And it's just a little stream of consciousness, oral meditation I do every day. I've been doing it for quite a long time. Started sharing it earlier this year. Who am I as I muse to myself, as I ponder the mysteries, as I unleash my pure positive voice? Because I have a pure positive voice chattering in the background of my head. I used to notice that. I'd lay in bed in the early hours of the morning with my eyes closed, not asleep, not quite awake, just musing about things, and there was this pure, positive, genius voice that would speak to me, and I would think to myself, oh my God, if I could just capture that, that's so wise, it's so wonderful, if I could. But how do you hold that pure positive voice? How do you capture it? Well, I started getting up early in the morning, and I came down to my office, kept my eyes closed, not really, but, kept it dark, talked to myself. The result finally is this show, which is deeply personal for me. After all, I do call it Who Am I? And for me, it falls to who am I? But collectively, I ask this question because who are we and where are we going and what is everything about? I do have some pure positive thoughts about all kinds of things. Now, I want you to know that I'm a student of dark things. I have been fascinated with all kinds of aberrant psychology, cult behavior, authoritarian psychosis, the Nazi phenomenon from last century, World War II. Well, I call it the World War, Part 1 and 2. And the reason I call it that is because if you start going full ordinal, World War One, then World War Two, and then the next one's going to be World War Three, and the one after that's going to be World War Four. Although nobody pretty much talks about World War Four because it's kind of understood. If we ever let three happen, four won't. There won't be a world connected enough to go to war against each other. So I just call it the World War, Parts 1 and 2. And I think it's valid because Hitler was the one who invited us back to enjoy World War II. And he did it because he wasn't done fighting World War I. So I think it's valid to say we had one world war with kind of two reverberations of it, two echoes of it. One was when Hitler was young, and then he was determined, he had what he believed in. He drew his negative conclusions, and boy, he went for what he went for. But that was him inviting us back to more of World War One, really. And then that gets us away from the full ordinal progression of world wars because I don't actually think it's necessary. We did it once. I think we have plenty of information on the table now to understand who we are, why we did that, and to completely understand how to move away from that and never do it again. But it's going to be a matter of putting it all together. And so that's kind of what I do in the show. I'm going to put it all together the way I have it put together in my head. And granted, this is just a perspective. All of you listening to me need only say to yourself, this is a perspective in this crazy woman's head. No, I'm not crazy. We're all crazy, so I guess I am crazy. People are crazy. God is great, beer is good, and people are crazy. I think there's a song about that. Anyway, so what are we going to put together so that we understand who we are, so that we never repeat the things that we have done? Now, some people claim that what we have to do is everybody has to remember the history, or any of the ones who don't remember it are going to be likely to repeat it. And that's not exactly true. It could be true. It is possible that if we were in exactly the same scenario leading up to the moment and we didn't understand that this could happen, we could let it happen again. And I do see that. However, the way to keep it from happening is not necessarily to focus on. You have to be careful about how you focus on it. Because depending on how you focus on it, and you're remembering this terrible thing that you never want to repeat, depending on how you're focusing on it, you may be summoning it directly to you. So you got to be careful. Do it from a positive position. Do it from an understanding of, we're good, we're moving to the positive, we saw that happen, it's understood that we're not like that. That was tremendous naivety on our part as we enthusiastically joined in all kinds of things that caused all kinds of and I ramble. Here I'm rambling about World War II, or the World War, as I said, that parts 1 and 2. It's easier to say World War II, but ultimately I believe there was only going to be the one iteration last century. We don't need to do it again. And if any of our governments ask us to do it, we should tell them no. Because that's a complete misunderstanding of who we are and what we are about and where we're supposed to be going in all of this. It's playing the paradigm incorrectly. It's not a win-lose paradigm. It's a win-win. And we've got to get over we have an impulse that we want the people who disagree with us to lose. We want them to lose, and sometimes we want their face to be rubbed in it. We want them to be defeated. We want them to be crushed. I don't know. We want them, and that impulse in human beings, it's a very destructive one. We should get over that one. You shouldn't want your neighbor, your enemy. There shouldn't be an enemy. There is no enemy. Even your worst enemy is not your enemy. The murderers are not our enemies. The pedophiles are not our enemies. The dictators are not our enemies. The followers of the dictators and the dictator wannabes are not our enemies. Nobody is our enemy. But depending on how you frame what we're looking at, how you demark things, how you align and separate the orders in your own mind, you start thinking that what you're looking at outwards is an expression of, it's a reflection of this dark way that you're playing it. It just has to do with the way the universe is. The universe is unconditionally supportive in whatever it is that you're putting out. It's reflecting it right back to you. And that's a good thing, because if you understand how the system works, then you understand that you have 100% control over your vehicle, over where it goes, over what you get, over what you rendezvous with. But it all comes back to the way you're driving your car, what you're assuming about the world around you, the paradigm that you think you're in, the primary assumptions at the top of the operating system. All of your primary assumptions, I believe that Abraham would call those beliefs. Your primary beliefs, your primary assumptions up at the top of the board. And that has to do with your views about reality, what you think reality itself is, who you think you are, how you think, how you believe you fit in with the rest of the group, and all of that. That's all up at the top of the board, at the top of your primary assumptions, at the top of your operating system. There's another one at the top there that a lot of people don't go in, and you have to examine your own equipment, your own consciousness, because you have an aspect of your consciousness that is just like a computer that works really, really well. But what you want to do with that, it's your physical mind is actually very, very accurate, but in order to be fully accurate, it has to be in alignment with the real reality of the field. And if it's not in alignment with the actual reality of the field, even though you're getting a read back, a reflection back as though it was correct, I'll give you an example. If you are playing the game as a win-lose paradigm, you're going to get feedback back from the universe as though you are correct. In the sense that you're going to look around and there's going to be a field full of winners and losers. And you're going to go, I was correct. And you're going to see yourself on one side of it. I either won or I lost. But I'm looking at this like winners and losers. But in actual fact, that is not in alignment with what the field is really doing. What the field is really doing, it is participating in a win-win paradigm going on. And if you play that win-lose one long enough, it's out of alignment, and you're going to end up, on the one hand, you get what you get. You end up getting a whole lot of stuff that looks like it reflects that, the truth of that, but it's only because the universe is so unconditionally cooperative. What you really want is you want to get your operating system in alignment with the truth of what the universe is actually doing. And this is where it's a good idea to start going into those realms of your mind where you are not judging yourself so harshly, where you're not blaming yourself and you're not looking at people as being bad. You're actually floating in this pure positive place where you're recognizing that people, we are extremely powerful beings, and we have been here for a long time, but somebody created us. Somebody gave us a little genetic modification, at the least, that's what they did. It's evident over there on human chromosome number 2, where you can see it's a fused chromosome, and the geneticists have claimed that the 2 chromosomes that they can see fused on 2 sides, you can see it in a readout. You can see the one on the top, and then you get to the middle, and there's telomere, because that's where they were joined, telomere to telomere. That's the outside edges of chromosomes, by the way. They shouldn't be fusing. It's weird. So there's telomere material in the middle, and then there's a bunch more genetic material. And when they did the sequential readout, what they said is, oh man, both of these are 2 ape chromosomes. These are 2 less developed chromosomes fused together at the telomere. And actually, if you look at the description of the sequencing, what you see is that redundancies, places where there was the same thing on both sides, and the whole one, the new one that is 2 of them together, didn't need both of those, clip a little bit away on both sides, and now the thing has to stay together to stay whole. It stabilized the fusion. Somebody did this to us about 200,000 years ago, and it is responsible for about 3/4 of the volume of our neocortex. The neocortex being that layer of mind that is. So I have a slide. I got this from Greg Braden. I've been to like 4 of his conferences, a couple of them with Bruce Lipton and other people. One was with just Bruce Lipton, and it might have been 2 with just Bruce. and then another one with a whole bunch of other people, and then another one with just Greg. They kept doing these wonderful, we have a wonderful venue for these things just up the street, about 15 minutes away from where I live. And it's a beautiful hotel also. So I go a resort, and I go stay there when I do these conferences and go fully immersion, even though I live 15 minutes away. It's wonderful. That's why I've done so many of them. The Abraham cruise that I did, I did a cruise of the Caribbean, and I booked it was the smallest suite they had. I can't remember what it was called, and I did it by myself, and it was in 2022 when the world didn't really quite completely trust petri dishes like cruise ships. And so we had the ship was less than half full, and it was delightful. It was so amazing, such an amazing cruise, and what a wonderful experience. And anyway, where am I? Who am I? And where are we going? Who is this positive self? Oh, I was talking about the neocortex volume of this fusion that was done to us. We are a created species, I believe. One of the things that helps me support the idea that we are a created species is that it just makes so much sense what was done to us. One of the things that we got out of this was our emotions, our emotional range. The fact that we can go from, and how our thoughts and our mind can be captured in this tremendous range of emotion that a human being has. It's spectacular. And especially when you start to understand what this quantum field is and the meaning of our emotional guidance system, and then when you realize that our emotions are actually singing to this magical quantum matrix that we are all embedded in, you could start to get your spine tingly as you start to imagine the positive possibilities of what you could do with this system if you understood who you were and you understood who we really are and what we're really doing. And that's how come when I do this show, Who Am I don't just stay strictly in the psychological or strictly in the philosophical or the spiritual or whatever. I lead us over to the new physics as understood by Nassim Haramein and all of the papers that he's put out. He's published. He's not just a guru over there, spouting nonsense and taking people, to Tulum once a year to speak of the mysteries and, jibber jabber about sacred geometry. No, this is real geometry. This is how it fits. This is how it goes together. This is how it comes together, and this is who we are. We are the field. You are the whole field. And the way... I get tingly now when I start to think about this, because I can really see this. The structure of the universe. When you recognize how the actual structure of the universe relates to who you are and your evolution through time and all of that, and how you relate to the field, and what's possible with humanity if we would just quit resisting one another, quit fearing one another, start leaning into our positive self, who we really are, acknowledge, but not with a lot of time and not with a lot of emotion anymore. Feel the emotion and then get past it. We are bad, we've been bad, terrible bad. we make war on each other. We're really... Excuse me, I have to cough and I have no dang pause button. My tech person drank a little too much wine before I had her fix it yesterday on Thanksgiving. So I have to wait until today. So I'm live streaming and I can't I have no cough button. If I want to take a drink of water, if I want to go over and if anything, I'm hot. The mic is hot. We are live. I cannot stop. And I may have people watching me. I really need to go look in my studio just to make sure that there is no technical difficulties going on. And by the way, if anybody is listening and you notice that I need to, I don't know how to turn my volume up right at the moment. My Yeti in my OBS studio is as loud as it can be. So let's see, do I have anybody listening? Oh, I have one person listening. And they've been listening for 18 minutes. 2 concurrent viewers, 1 like. Oh, Indigo. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming. By the way, just to check, are my volume levels okay? Somebody yesterday said, and I don't know if it was him or if it was me. So anyway, I'm going to go back to my riff. Good to know that I think somebody is in the chat room. I think Indigo is right here right now, and I do appreciate that. I'm going to go away from... Oh, I need to split my screen. And I have no pause button for the video recap. I think I'll do this. This is how I do it. Yeah. The sound is low. Your volume is quite low. Have you toned... Okay. All right. I will ask my tech person. Because when I do the replays on YouTube, because I do have a bigger YouTube video presence than I do live. I've just recently tried to do live. And... when I replay my videos on my phone, it's quite loud. But I don't know. I can come closer to my microphone if that helps in any way. Sometimes I like to slouch back in my chair and just kind of forget myself. So anyway, I'm going to go back to my riff, because I do think it is really important that we align our physical brain, our physical mind, with our greater mind, with what our greater mind knows to be true about the same situation that we're concerned about. We're concerned about the situation. Our inner being is concerned about this. Not concerned. Engaged in. Not concerned. Your inner being is not concerned. But the physical reality around us is what we're all involved in, both our spiritual side and our physical side. And so when you get your physical mind in alignment with the actual reality of the field around you, you will find that your creativity, your wisdom, your ability to connect and relate to your family, your ability to, just flow with life in a easier way, your ability to, you'll get all kinds of ideas about what the world should be doing. We should be not fighting with each other. Well, the big things that I like to push, because in practical value, I think this has the biggest punch. That is understanding that we do not need to burn fossil fuel. We don't need to do this. We've sort of been tricked into believing that it's the only way. And collectively, it's what we've gotten together and focused all of our resources on in order to build the infrastructure so that in a way we get to a point of no return where all of the... Wait, what just happened? Oh, hold on. I gotta look at something. Something just happened. Did I just lose my stream? No, did I lose my stream? No, I'm still on my stream. Excellent. No. Oh, okay. Thank you. Somebody else just gave me, okay. I do need to do something with my volume. Thank you very much. That might be part of, I've had people who have tuned in and then they've just like a couple of seconds later they're gone. And I'm wondering, why did they do that? It might be because they can't hear me. So I'll figure this out. Thank you. And I'm going to try to be streaming every day right about this time. I got the same. What I'm trying to do is a stream of consciousness. Let my pure, positive, flowing consciousness ideas about all the things that we could do and how cool we really are and the shape and nature of the field and all of that. So if I can get this volume issue licked, I do have a tech person, and she happens to have spent the night. So that might even work out great. I'm going to go back to my studio, though, because I can't be thinking about such earthly details and riff to the stars like I want to. Because I really do think that humanity has so many things going for us that if we really leaned into them, we wouldn't have nearly the problems that we believe that we have. We could just fix our problems. It wouldn't be a problem. So, let's go back to that. Who are we? Who are we? Well, we are a whole field phenomenon. We are connected through a matrix of energy. And this matrix works in a particular way, and it has particular geometry. And we don't need to plug into fossil fuel. We don't need to use fossil fuel anymore if we would but learn to plug into this 0-point energy field. Now, over the last century, different people have come up with various ideas about how to do this. And not all of, I don't know that any of them have been plugging directly into the matrix, but there are other ways to do it, to do over unity, to develop a machine that puts out voltage that our technology can plug into, that I could plug my air conditioner into, or that I could plug my lamp into, or ostensibly that I could drive my car with, because my car, plugs into this energy too. So how has it been done? Well, I invite you to go watch the movie, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. And there's different strategies. One guy had a device that he was tuning to the magnetic field of the planet. And, he went over and he's tuning, I got to get this set just right. And when he got it tuned just right, boom, 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 it starts putting out voltage that you can plug into. Now, he had mad inventor syndrome and went to the patent office to get an honest patent on his device, and it got snatched from him and he got silenced. I don't remember if he was one of the ones that got murdered. I don't know. They deep six the idea and sometimes the inventor with it. The invention and sometimes the inventor with it. It all depends. It's a structure of thought and spirit and intention. There's like hundreds of trillions of dollars of directed economic activity at stake, all in the general structure of, based with the fossil fuels, and then you got all of the infrastructure that tags to that. And then you have the vehicles on the ground and all of the infrastructure that tags to that, and all of the privilege that goes with the first world infrastructure, which is what you have to have if you're going to use that first world technology that involves the wired house and you have to have the pipelines that take the oil from the fields to the and the more we invest in our infrastructure looking like that, the more we're locked in that way. And how do we but the interesting thing is we do not need to burn fossil fuel. And the other thing that I believe, although I don't think that we have quite licked it just yet, now forgive me on the YouTube videos, because I think my YouTube videos are going to be quite loud. So I don't know how to make my live stream louder, but not like blast everyone away on my YouTube videos. I'll work on that though. This whole thing has been a journey for me, trying to find my voice and find my technology and find my audience and all of that. I am giving voice to my pure positive voice, although I want you to understand that this pure positive voice is connected to a human being that understands what it's like to be a human being and that it's not all positive here on the ground, you know? However, if we would lean into our positive self and understand the positive possibilities, the sky's the limit. I mean, the sky is not the limit. There is no limit. We don't really have the problems on planet Earth that we think that we have. But there is work in front of us. We need to transform our systems. We need to understand who we are. There's all kinds of work to be done. So, over unity, do you want to talk more about that? If I had an audience, I could ask them, I could say, hey, what do you want to talk about? Because I have all kinds of topics. Let's see, what has somebody said in the... okay, all right. Thank you, Indigo, for telling me that it's helps when I'm closer to the mic. Yeah, so much more simple than we... And actually, the actual problem is resistance. We spend so much time pushing against one another, blaming one another, us and theming one another, claiming you're the one who sinned, I haven't done the sin. You know, we're so focused on personal blame and sin that we can't lift our eyes up off the surface of the ground to take a look at what we are collectively, just from an honest standpoint. Let's see. Things are so much more simple. Let's see. Dialectic Truth says, ether-based energy is what ether-based beings in and out there. Yes, we are. We are spirit. We are, let's see, what were the words that you said? Etherical world. Thank you, Indigo. You know, I have wondered, are you I don't even know if I want to know if you were male or female or non-binary. It's interesting. I know that you are in England, which I find tremendously exotic, even though I have been to England a couple of times. Still, the fact that I speak to someone on the other side of the world is just so exciting to me. I think we're in for some really big changes soon, I believe. Oh, wonderful. Female single mom of 2 girls. Wonderful. I have 2 girls myself. They are 34 years old and twins. But I'm going to go back to my riffing. I love you all. And Dialectic Truth, I love you too. Welcome to the chat room. It is material. Actually, I'm going to go back to my riff as opposed to, because my riff as opposed to a discussion, and then I'll come back and I'll look and see whether I lost anybody. But I truly believe that in our nature is all of the solutions that we need to all of the problems that we have. Now, the gurus that I have been listening to all my life, I started with, actually it was probably it wasn't Deepak first, it was Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell came out with a show in 1988 called The Power of Myth. And I thought it was just so wonderful because instead of being so divisive like what I saw religion as being, everybody saying, no, mine's true, no, mine's true, no, mine's true. It was this person saying, no, I've been studying the mythology of human beings all over the planet throughout all of time, and I'm telling you, we are one species. And there is common theme, there's common archetype, there's common energy patterns, we are more alike than we are different. And I just thought that was wonderful. I had another personal experience when I was 14 years old. So I did come from a religion. I did not have a non religious background, I had a religious background. But it was not particularly, it was not imposed upon me in any sort of negative way. Um, I don't even remember anybody ever forcing me to believe any particular thing or pressing me on exactly what I did believe. But when I was 14 years old, I decided that I didn't want to believe it anymore. And so what I think that I actually did is I literally I removed it from the top of my operating system. Your physical brain is a computer kind of a thing, and then your soul, your overall soul, is like the impetus that gives that whole system meaning. And I decided to take my religion off of my beliefs. I decided not to believe it anymore, and it was disturbing at first because my religion had taught me that, oh, they didn't really believe in hell, and they weren't all that, fire and brimstone of a kind of religion, but the one place where you could get into trouble, where you could end up with the devil, is if you had heard the truth, had been thoroughly exposed to the truth, and consciously decided to turn away from the truth, which kind of felt like what I was maybe doing if this religion was true. And so it worried me for a while. I had at least one very dark night where I was sure the devil was going to come and get me, but then nothing really happened, and time went on, and that lens was no longer there. That lens of, I believe it in this way. As a matter of fact, my mind went completely open. I was open about everything, the nature of God, whether Jesus was a metaphor or a tale, or whether he was real, or whether he was a historical figure, whether he was divine or not. All of that was like up for grabs now. I didn't have a frame that set, but I had been raised with a frame. But then I removed it. And so I kind of got the benefit of both sides, Now I got a whole open mind. My parents divorced. My family fled to the four winds. All my older siblings got married and went off and had children, did their lives. I had no idea what I wanted to do. Even my parents kind of moved away. My mother stayed in the small town that I had finished high school living with her in, and I couldn't make my life there. It was too small. I had to go to college. There was there wasn't even a small satellite college at that point in this town. So I mean, I had to do something. So I moved down to the big city and stayed with my sister and just sort of drifted. I did not know who I was, what I wanted, what I believed. It was interesting. I shot pool. I tended bar. I have some more things that I will say someday about how the odd way that I developed sort of very solo. And now I'm intentionally solo while fundamentally I have a deep, 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 deep ingrained feeling of being one with the field around me. So it's like I'm alone a lot of the time, but I never feel alone because my feelings are all connected to this field that I believe that I'm a part of. And so I don't... And it's just so exciting to get on the air and be able to just riff about what I think's possible, about what I think our design and nature is, and all of that. I just think it's really exciting. And there's a couple of parts of it that I think that we would all be better served if we understood that resistance really is the problem. And that's really the meaning of the resistance is futile. Resistance is futile. It is futile. Resistance is futile. Or futile. What we need to be doing is turning our face to the positive and walking towards what we want instead of spending all of our time punishing everyone responsible for why we don't have it yet. You know, although I understand why it was necessary, perhaps, because everything happens for a reason. Perhaps I understand why it might have been necessary back last century to go through the Nuremberg trials and then the hangings and the retribution and then the Nazi hunters and all of that stuff forevermore. Because you can't let something as horrible as that stand. You can't let that stand. But on the other hand, you know what? From this perspective, from the perspective that I see now, so as I studied World War II and Nazis and all that stuff, in my 20s, I studied it from here. So here I'm in the middle of the United States. We were the allies. We were the good guys. We didn't do it. And it was a long time ago. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but it was a long time ago. I'm thinking as I'm studying it. It's been decades and decades and way across the pond, and it was some other people, Germans, not us. But the truth of the matter is that human beings did that. We did that. There is no us and them. We did that. We're capable of doing that. It will lead to that. What is that? It's a really good question. Who am I? Who am I? And if you come at it from a psychological point of view and actually go look at the work of Paul Levy. He's got a beautiful way of marrying quantum physics and human psychology. He has his own interesting history as he came to the status of wounded shaman, or whatever you might call him. He had a psychic crack up because of some really interesting psychological cruelty that his father engaged in with him when he was not physical abuse, not sexual abuse, nothing salacious like that. It's almost difficult to even describe because Paul himself does not. He kind of describes it not in the details of how he describes it are sort of funny. But he had a psychological crack up, and the way he came back to himself was through sort of a combination of Jungian psychology, Buddhist philosophy, and quantum physics. And now he writes about that, and he talks about this experience that we are having in life here is like we are dreaming it. We are dreaming it into place. We are actually spirit beings dreaming that we are having a physical experience. We think it's the other way around. We think we are physical beings dreaming about spiritual experiences, but it's not. It's the other way around. And his work is very interesting. And why did I bring it up? Well, because we need to understand ourselves. We need to understand our positive and negative self. We need to understand the law of attraction. We need to understand unified physics. We need to understand over-unity devices. We have so much cool shit coming down the pipe at us. And the capability of consciousness to put it together is amazing. And you will understand that if you work on putting it together in your own consciousness. Your own consciousness will start to bloom, and you'll start to flow with the rest of the unified field. You will find yourself in the middle of universal consciousness. And I think there's a reason why they call it universal consciousness. They call it that because we all have access to it. And the only thing that really cuts us out of that is our negative mind and our specific self, who has a tendency to be a negative mind. If you can learn to turn off your damn negative mind and turn on your, well, what is it that you're doing? Abraham talks about building a positive momentum and sort of turning off your negative mind by virtue of building a positive momentum. You start early in the day. You start with a meditation. You just don't listen to that mind that is telling you that you are not enough, because you are enough. We are all enough. And if we would lean into our positive self and not believe the negative in the back of our... as a matter of fact, I listened to the most wonderful riff about that from Bashar. He was... I should go find that and then recommend it to you. It was a wonderful riff about the nature of the voice inside your head. So probably if you put Bashar and the voice inside your head, you might get it. I could tell you more specifically what it was. It was really good, though. We have inside of us this steady state voice that's neither positive nor negative. It's just a neutral voice that says, I need to, there's some bananas, the chair is brown, look, there's a robin. It's not judging, it's just kind of observing, the neutral observer. And then bracketed on both sides of the neutral observer, you have the positive and the negative minds. And there are voices in your head. There you have positive and negative voices in your head on both sides of this very neutral one that goes all the way up and all the way down. This neutral one. And the positive and negative sides have different aspects to them. They have genders to them, male and female. And the negative male voice is the critic. The one who is always telling you, I'm not good enough, I haven't done enough, you haven't worked hard enough, you didn't make enough money, you didn't try hard enough, you look back, you failed there, all of that. That's that voice. The female aspect of the negative mind is I think it's the male is the father of lies, and the female one is the deceiver, the whore of Babylon. But they're these the deceiver tries to tell you that the end justifies the means, and there's different aspects. It was a wonderful riff. And then on the positive side, there's this positive, encouraging, nurturing, supportive father and nurturing mother is actually what's the archetypes on the positive side of this voice. But bracketed up, these two brackets are on both sides of this neutral voice that is just observing, and it's inside of you. Anyway, I'm not sure where I'm going with all of that, but all of this goes to your nature. Who are you? What are you made of? What is the field that you're part of? What is the history that you're part of? Both the current events kind of history, like who's president today and what year did such and such a war start, that kind of history. And then you go all the way back to prehistory and the beginnings of Homo sapiens. Where did human beings come from? I think we were genetically modified. And so actually, if it's what I think, and that is that aliens did something to us, then there's a whole part of this story that the Natural History Museum is leaving out, Excuse me. And while I find all of this stuff incredibly interesting, some of it's really practical, because our understanding of our positive and negative emotions And understanding that there is no us and them is going to help us quit fighting wars with one another and quit pushing against one another. And don't worry about the people who don't get it. And don't worry about the people who are engaged in war or fighting with one another about this and that and the other. Don't worry about that. It's not for you to worry about, because you can't control the conditions. I have no control over the multitude of spins going on around me. Turns out the only control that you have is over your own individuated spin. And it's enough, because your own individuated spin is, on the one hand, yours and yours alone, and on the other hand, is connected to all of the rest of spinning source. And the true paradigm that we are living in is win-win. And the way that you get out of alignment with the field is to not play it as a win-win, but to play it like a win-lose. It's not a win-lose. It's a win-win. So, anyway, don't resist bad things around you. Instead, advocate for the things that you love. Learn to focus on what you care about, what you want, what you like, and do it in aspects. Start focusing on certain frequencies in the same field you've been looking at all along. You don't actually have to change the whole view. You can start plucking out of the field you've been looking at aspects of it that you like. And that's how you start igniting those frequencies inside of you, and that starts pulling your light mechanism in the direction of where you want to go, specifically where you want to go, what you care about, what you appreciate, what you love. Because this inner being that we talk about, I don't know if I've talked about the inner being as much as I usually do, this vibrational greater self that you actually are. But that aspect of you is love. It is gravity. It is connection. It is all of us and all of our information on a single point, all there together. You don't have to go anywhere to get everywhere, because all of the information is right here with you all the time. And so the universe that you navigate to is all up to you. And as a matter of fact, if you believe what Bashar says, and I do believe it, I've pondered it many times, trying to taste whether I can feel the possibility of it. And I have to say that I do taste the possibility of the truth of this, that every version of the universe exists, and it is up to you to choose where you want to go. And I have decided that I want to experience the version of planet Earth that makes it. Earlier in my life, I experienced a lot of things. I didn't experience it like in actual reality. I read and I felt, and I read and I thought, and I studied and I felt, and I read and I thought, and I did that. And because I'm not a Holocaust survivor. I'm not even Jewish, you know. My father fought in World War II, but he didn't fight the Nazis. He fought the Japanese. And so and he has interesting tales himself about the making peace and the making friends with that culture that he did. I wish he had shared some of this when I was younger. Now he really wants to share it, and he's less clear about it because he's 99 years old. But that's all he wants to talk about is things like he was part of the occupying force in the Nagasaki area right after that bomb was dropped. He was some miles away. He was not really close but he was not. That was the area that he was in, and part of what they were doing, the project where he was in, they were dismantling a kamikaze. What would you call it? There was a training station. There was planes, all the teachers, the landing fields, the all of that. It was a kamikaze, whatever. They were dismantling it, and my father ended up making friends, covertly making friends because it was not allowed, with a young pilot in training, a young kamikaze pilot in training. And my father is, let's see, it's 1945, so he is 19 years old. That's all the age my father was. He was fighting on Tarawa at 17, operating a 50 caliber machine gun, and then spending, 2 weeks in Grizzly mop-up afterwards at 17 years old. 2 months before his 18th birthday. But even he, after going through all of that, ended up making his peace with the human beings involved in the equation, and he no longer called them Japs, and he no longer felt of them as being inhuman or, the enemy or whatever. And I know I picked that spirit up from him. There is no us and them. That's the ultimate lesson. And yet you go, well, how can that be? How can there be no us and them when there's obviously sometimes an us and them? Wasn't the us the I don't know. Who is the us and them? Because we were on both sides of the equation in the There is no us and them. Human beings did it all. Human beings were throwing other human beings into the fires, into the ovens. And even on the Allies' side, if you start studying from Masterpiece Theater is a really good place to do it. Things like Foyle's War, and there's so many wonderful British dramas done depicting what life, day-to-day life, would have felt like during the war, and how, I don't know, study all of that. Even a binge watching Downton Abbey can help you understand the meaning of war, because there's so many meanings to war. There were things that we were resisting in society that we weren't allowing to evolve. And when a lot of society's attention was over on the war, instead, women and people of color and servant class and all kinds of people broke out of their shells just a little bit. And then with the next iteration, just a little bit more, and then just a little bit more, and then just a little bit more. And you realize that in a way, the COVID thing that we just went through, in a way, was a substitute for a world war, as some other things gave. Did you notice? It wasn't all bad. Some of it was bad. And some of it wasn't bad at all, because all of a sudden, the whole world recognized, oh, you can work from home. Ooh, we can do Zoom. Ooh, we can do Google Meet. Ooh, we can do this and that and the other. And the booming of all kinds of technologies and the possibilities that opened up when that happened. Everything has a silver lining. Everything has a silver lining. Everything is always working out for us. And you just got to know that. You got to believe it. And you know what? I haven't checked my chat room for a while. And so I'm going to go see whether anybody's been talking to me. And if they have, I'm sorry. My ability to riff and check the chats at the same time is still limited. I'm a newbie. Ooh, I've had 4 views. 2 concurrent viewers. Right now, I think I have 2 people watching. Wow. How very exciting. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Yes, it did do a lot, didn't it? And you know, if you remember, John F. Kennedy was the one who said, I think he's the one who said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. And I think that's the only reason why we had those wars. But we are moving now. We are morphing. We are changing, and we're not so resistant to change anymore. And the fact that even somebody like me, thank you, somebody like me can just get on this and just riffity riff the way I do, is a wonderful statement of the positively changing times. Things are always working out for us, and they are still working out for us. And our positive inner being self is reaching and leaning forward. And apparently, what Abraham tells us is that we're never going to catch up. Don't worry about it. We are never going to catch up. There will always, because your inner being can vibrationally jump there instantaneously. And it takes you a little bit longer to figure out, how to allow yourself to go where she's calling you. What does that mean? It means care how you feel. Don't be so willing to let a negative thought, even if you sense that there is a truth to it, I'm air quoting, truth to it, knock you off of your game, because even the most negative things going on have tremendous positive implications once we turn our eyes forward. Once we give up resistance, quit trying to punish one another, quit trying to one of my favorite things to say is it's like that old joke, and the beatings will continue until morale improves. And quite frankly, morale will never improve as long as we keep beating up on one another. We're not going to beat better behavior out of one another. We're going to only love and soothe and understand and inspire better behavior out of one another. We're going to have to come to an understanding that our true nature is connected. Our true nature is love, and our destiny is connection. We are actually already as connected as we could possibly be. We just need our physical brains to catch up. So I see that I've gone longer than an hour, and I have settled on an hour as being a good time. Now, like I did say, I have my tech person in-house this morning. I'm going to find my pause button. I know that the live stream doesn't care about that, but I also am going to fix the volume. So if anybody watched and needs me to raise my volume, I'm going to work on that. So until tomorrow, I haven't fully come up with the greatest goodbye catchphrase. Abraham says something like, "There is great love here for you." And I like that one. That one's really good. I've been saying, "May the source be with you," because it kind of sounds funny. And since I'm dedicated to talking about source energy, this thing that is often just talked about in church and then not usually tagged back together to the material world in a spiritual way, that's kind of my lane. That's how come I have decided I wanted to say, "May the source be with you." It's not the best one because it doesn't really say it all, but until I can come up with a better one, that's what I'm going to do. So until tomorrow, I'll be back about the same time for an hour. It should be about 6 a.m. Mountain Standard Time to 7 a.m.-ish. Until then, stay cool. I love you, and may the source be with you.